There we go. Oh, welcome all. We are going to start by sharpening some tools. I have a couple beach bowls that need to be finished turned. So it looks like it's still sharp. I was doing some work yesterday. That one's not. Might as well do the 40-degree gouge. Forty-degree gouge likes a very short bevel. Makes them work a little better. Not that a lot of them won't work differently or better with the shorter contact bevel. It's really kind of better if you would do that before you sharpen it. But we didn't mess it up this time. A lot of times I roll over a little bit too far and then we have other issues. I missed that. It has a little crack in it. Huh. Okay. Let's go back there. Let's widen out a bit. Don't need a drive center. Should have cleaned up a little bit. It was a busy day yesterday. This is generally how I remount all this stuff. It does have a little bit of a center point in there. Could make it a little more definite. Just so the live center has something to go by, get into. And we'll basically just jam it up against there. A little bit of pressure on it. And then we're good. As you can see, it's moved quite a bit. rim especially. So we'll get us a nice big wider tenant that's going to be which in this case will probably be the foot. Yeah, bring the foot out into there. It's not super thick. I could have left it a little thicker than what I did. Maybe should have. If I remember right, I don't think I had a ton of options on it when I did it. I think it was done sort of out of a board. And according to this, I did it in like 21. So it's been around a while. It's plenty dry. So we'll get some things trued up here on the outside. At least get a might do something a little bit different with this. After watching Richard Raffin, I might just mark where this tenant's going to be and put the tenant on it, and flip it around so I can clean up this top edge because it's got a couple considerable big dips in it. So we'll start out nice and slow. Should have a little bit of vibration to it, I'm sure. So we'll go in this area in here where the tenant's going to be. Need to clean something up a little bit. So I'm sure that's not. Although down in that area, it doesn't move as much closer to the center. Probably could have actually just cleaned up that existing tenant. Might have been a better idea. A little dovetail, nice sharp crisp corner in there. Let's try that once. So just leave that in there, just in case this doesn't work the way I want it to. It should be that jaws there, or not. What's the other one? One doesn't work for nothing there. Not exactly for that jaws either. They probably originally were on the bigger ones, but I took too much off. That's okay. We'll just grab a hold of it, clean up a little bit of this stuff on the rim, and then I'll make some sort of little recess or something in there so that I can get a hold of it on this side. Sounds like a plan, anyhow. Put it that way. We're gonna find our really high points, as you can see. You can see better if we do it that way. Get my big head out of the road. Widen that out some more as far as it goes. This thing is actually pretty good size. Yeah, it's 12 inches across. So there is a little bit of a crack right there, and I assume that's sort of one of the places it's dipped into. So let me go at it. Not gonna be able to get it not gonna be able to go real fast with it because it's gonna be out of balance out here considerably. Nice little light cut. Just want to get it where it's flat, or at least pretty flat. Ideally be totally flat, but crack that we're just not gonna. I think we're gonna deal with that. We're gonna have to fill that a little bit. Still not quite flat though. I'm gonna make it a little bit trued up there. Still not quite there yet. It's gonna be a rather shallow kind of bowl, but it's got a lot of character to it, so it'll be more of a like a plate rather than a bowl. Where was our spot? Should have marked it. That would always be good. I think we got it though. Razor sharp edge there. Meat there. That's okay. I think that'll work. Don't have a ton of material in there. Hmm. Probably only about an inch thick in through there. This might actually be a challenge to get something out of this because of the amount that it has moved. But we're going to give it a whirl. Just use the big jaws to have them set for the inside. Oh, that's actually set for the outside. So if we mark a place out in here somewhere, that could use a square inch paper, but my parting tool is right here, so not quite deep enough. How are you this evening? I want to be the whole way around now. Still want to have it the whole way around. Mm, this thing's going to get mighty thin in a hurry. Now we got a lip all the way around. So now if the plan works, should be able to flip this around. Expand the big jaws in there. I'm going to set my dividers before I get carried away. Because ideally I would like to grip it on the finished diameter for this. And we'll just make this the foot when we're done. Now we have total access, which is what I was after. And it should make life a little bit easier, I think. Only if you get the things out of the road. It's always the reason why you spin it before you turn it on. So now our foot's going to be about that big. So I probably should just up and mark that while I'm here. Right. Doesn't want to stay in the groove. And we'll mark the one that I got the right place. So we can make our foot. It's going to be a very small foot because we don't have a lot of room on the other side. So it'll just be about 1/8 of an inch, something like that. Hopefully that'll work. We'll have to check. We'll check it before we get too carried away. Now we'll work on getting the rest of it screwed up. No, not quite there. Or in here, but as soon as we get out, about there. Okay, when I look down, I can see the ghost image down below. So I can see where it's not. What? The 40-degree gouge might actually do a nicer job on that. So it looks like we should have left this a lot thicker than what we did. It's still not round out here. It's round there. And about there. A little bit more. There's probably still a solid inch thick down through there. So we're not in danger. It's got a little bit of a branch or something that's sticking out there. A little bit of a void there. Wasn't really taking into account that. Might have to do something about that. Don't see any evidence of that branch coming out the other side, but I would almost venture a guess and say when we start cutting on the inside, that branch is going to, by the looks of it, it's, unless it just came, no, there's a pith, so it's going that direction. Get in there because the edge, you know when you get it all squared away because the edge will be very, very, very sharp. I can see just a little bit of a ghost image. If I put my finger on it, I can feel it right about there in that area. Nice and slow off the end because that way it won't splinter it up so bad. I think we have it squared away. Looks like it. Looks like a nice, sort of a nice flowing curve. I got some little lumps and bumps in there, but we'll straighten them out. And we'll probably straighten them out with this fierce paper.
Something I never really used until I started watching Richard Raffin. There's a couple other ones that are using the traditional scrapers a lot, and they're fairly cheap to make. It feels like it's not very sharp. This is some beech. It's got some spalting in it. It's not something I normally would work with very much. I mean, beech trees grow here in Pennsylvania, but this is kind of the first that I had ever gotten any. It's been around for a couple of years now. Has some very interesting color. This is kind of a little disappointment there. So we're gonna definitely, if we're gonna straighten up this outside and do something to try and, we'll have to try and fill that in a little bit or something. Yes, it is. It's it cuts very, very well. Cuts cleanly very well. Put it that way, which is always important. I think our foot's just a little bit. We need to go in a little bit further on that. I'm pretty brave when it comes to grabbing a hold of a small foot, but always a point of getting it too small. And it seems like it scrapes very well, which is always a plus. Of course, out here where this knot's at, it might not. Shouldn't do that. That knot's sharp. It's actually kind of a disappointment. Oh, you know what? Oh, shoot. That branch is going in across in that direction because that's the end of it, I guess. Let me get a demo pick and see what it's going to do. This may end up being a problem. Planning on finishing this tonight, but it's really looking like that's not going to happen. Yeah, that's what I thought. Things going to come out. Of course, now the real question is how much of it, because that's right there going in that far. This is maybe an inch thick right there. It's really a disappointment.
We really need to clean up in here good enough to fill it with something. Big as the hole that it is. This might have to be something different. Yeah, I do. And then I'll have a big hole. But we might just do it. There's enough solid wood up here because that thing's going to come out. It's loose, or it seems loose. Eh, we'll just go for it. I ordered some stuff from Craft Supplies a couple weeks ago, and I got some brass shavings, which would probably look kind of neat in something like that, but I don't know. This is beech. Beech with some spalting in it. I guess we'll just up and finish off this foot, and then we'll sort of hope for the best, I guess. Can do all that, should be able to do all that just with a scraper. There's definitely an advantage of doing it this way with having a total access to it, that I can actually finish this foot complete and then flip it around. Now we gotta see whether we're flat. Is it a little on it? No, we're still got a hump in the middle. This is kind of like trying to take the least amount of material to go in a little bit more. Because ideally I'll leave that, as long as I sized it right, leave that foot just like it is. And I'll be able to just finish it as is. Do a little bit of decoration. Didn't quite have the sharp point there, but that's good enough. Still see some on my pencil line. That's okay. And since, make sure this is sitting, be a little bit a little bit more of an angle here. Ideally, I want it sitting just out on that edge. Sharp corner.
And since we don't know what we're going to have to do, I don't feel there's really a good point of standing that, because I'm 75% sure that this little branch or whatever it is going to come through the other side and it's probably going to fall out. So might as well just leave that as is. Would be better if I actually got it flat. I didn't get that flat. Quit touching. Quit touching. When you touch your finger, you can feel that's actually sharp, which is not surprising. All right. Let's flip around and see what we got. Could have been a tad smaller. That probably is going to leave marks, but we can do something about that when we get there. More importantly is where this knot's at. It's coming up in here. I do have a little bit of a crack there too. Crack I'm not too concerned about. The knot is a different scenario. Probably can, the easiest way to do that is there's our sort of our low point. So that way I know where I need to go to, at least to make it relatively round out here. First order of business is going to get rid of this little razor blade. So that's very, very sharp. Be able to get a little bit of speed out of it. There we go. Still not out. It's still not running through. So let's see if our knot came through. Still have my pencil line, so I need to go out just a little bit further. There's our tree branch, and there's a hint of it on the inside. That's kind of livable there. And still, get my little calipers and see what it says. Yeah, we're still probably about 3/8 of an inch thick right in there. So it's not dangerously thin. It's going to be thin enough to cause vibration issues if I go much thinner than what it is. Yeah, you can hear it ticking. Yes, that's for sure. So just a little bit further. And the real thing I did, yeah, there's more of it coming through. Yeah, it's gonna come out. I can hear it crunching whenever I push on it. Be kind of nice if it didn't come out, but I'm not sure about that. There it is. You hear the tick, 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 ticking away. Yep, there it is. It wants to come out. It's loose. I don't know. Rather not have to fill that giant size void. It's also soft. My fingernail cuts right into that. I'm gonna leave it there. It's given some support out here with that being in there. I should have cleaned up that rim. This is probably not a great idea. This is gonna want to vibrate out here. That should be all right. Cleaned it up somewhat. The sandpaper takes care of that part. It feels like I'm pretty consistent wall thickness wise. Some lumps and bumps in there a little bit. I don't know if I could clean them up a little bit. Not sure this is a grand idea to use a scraper on there, but it might grab a hold of that knot. By the shavings that come off, it did a good job. Good. I think what we'll do is just finish it down through the bottom, and then we'll have to decide what we're going to do about that. Little crack there, that's not a big deal. That's a little super glue fill in. It's the branch that's going through. Yeah, well, it's going to take a few more than just a few drops, but That should work. Raise the tool rest a little bit. One thing with the traditional scrapers, they have to be going downhill. I have one, actually have one to do bowls. Actually, I think it's in the handle even. Yeah, you'd be using that. I'm not. It's if it comes out now, it doesn't really matter. I'm probably gonna try and cut it and get it to come completely out. Is my thought. So that's that. So the little branch is sort of rotten, I think. At least by the way it just cuts with a knife. So that gives me a place to fill. The other option would be to actually take the. See, that thing wants to come out. There it is. There we go. I knew it wanted to come out. Well, most of it came out. I know you want to come out of there. You're loose. There. Well, see, now we have a little character to it. We'll just have to sand a little bit on those edges to take the razor blade edge off of it. And it'll be a bowl with a void in it. We don't normally do much of that, but it looks like a whole lot easier and less wasting of time to fill in, try and fill all that giant size void in. I mean, you could, without a doubt, you could fill that with epoxy or something like that, which by all rights is probably what I should do with it. I'm not much of a fan of leaving the big holes in things. Because now we have a really big void on the back. But if I'm going to fill it with epoxy, then I'm going to have to take the Fordham with a little burr and go in there and clean all this, what would amount to being bark and stuff like that. So I get back to all solid material, so it becomes fillable. If I put tape and tuck tape across that side, get it at the right angle, I should be able to fill it mostly full in one shot. I think that sounds like a plan. But we're going to work on the other bowl first. Think about that a little bit more. This one should be a whole lot easier than the other one. No, I don't like that stuff. I shouldn't say that. I've never used it, but yeah, that doesn't sound like my kind of thing. Not my kind of thing. So yeah, there 9 of 22 is when that was turned. So it goes on those jaws. Not very well though. I guess we'll clean up that little bit on the tenant first. But I kind of like that. Kind of like the philosophy. Yeah, that stuff only comes in sort of plain colors though, right? Or I can add some character to it if I use the standard epoxy. Maybe make it a little translucent or something. Oh, live center would be a good thing to have. They're all primary colors, right? Yeah. Where if I take the time to do it in the epoxy, I can get some color to it or something. So now, I always used to do these just like that and do the whole outside, but like I say, watching Richard Raffin doing some of them, like, it's an extra step, but it gives you total access to everything. Kind of makes it nice. Turquoise and turquoise would might be all right. Okay. Toby, you sure you don't want to come back and help teach some of these classes? Go for the big adventure? I've managed to make it a couple classes in a row without somebody throwing something off the lathe, so I guess I'm doing something right. And I can't seem to get enough of it. I guess. Okay. And believe me, when you're teaching classes with some of these people, it is an adventure. I guess that's the simplest way to put it. It's an adventure. And if they throw something off the lathe, in the bowl classes, I've had them throw them off shortly after they started hollowing the inside out, which that's not too bad. That's really kind of an inconvenience that it's fixable. I've had I've had one or two of them explode a bowl that were almost done with it, which is never a good thing. Okay, so now we have total access. A little bit extra work, but well, it's kind of like each time you do it, you're getting, I don't know, more adapt to what to expect out of people, I guess. Nathan hasn't made it very easy for me right now. He got me a whole bunch of bowl blanks, which is good because it's what I needed. He also got me all 6-inch diameter bowl blanks. Not quite. A little bit up there. This one's pretty, just like the other one. Got some spalting in it, some dark streaks in it. I kind of like to get a hold of some more of this stuff myself, but it's not, like I said, it grows in Pennsylvania, but it's just, this doesn't seem to be a very common wood to see. Well, one guy at work just asked me whether it was good to turn, and that he has, or his father-in-law has some property up the country a little ways, and he said that there again, it's another one of the woods that there's some sort of beetle or bug or something that's killing it. Yes, this came from Martin. You too. Thanks for stopping by. Uh, so that's the 3 inch. Wish I had a set of jaws that was in between the 4 and the 3, but I don't. And now you got it sitting on that one. And that was the outside of them, so that's way too big. So be more in about that size. Confucius once say you should have reset that before you did that. So down about there, let's see whether did how well we did on our guessing. Very poorly. So there. Yeah, this beech came from down there in Lancaster. The guy that he was living with down there. No, that's going to be too big. They had taken a tree down, and the tree was huge. And he called me, and he had some other wood for me. And I went down to get it, and they were slabbing it. That's probably the last time I think he used his chainsaw mill. That tree was big enough. I think he had I want to say a 60-inch bar on it, maybe even bigger. Two power heads on the saws. Power head on each end of the chainsaw mill. Quite impressive to see that work. But there was a couple pieces of this. I think it was actually the initial cut that they had made on the outside. So the wood hoarder in us all. I'm like, what are you gonna do with that piece? I'm gonna throw it in the back of your truck. What I'm gonna do with it? Like that's what I was thinking. So that's gonna be our foot. So I brought it home, and Got a couple pieces, couple nice pieces out of it. I have a nice like flower vase that I got out of it. That was a nice big chunk of it, which is really kind of stunning in appearance because it's the same way. It has all the dark and the light colors to it. Of course, like everything, like a lot of the other stuff, it's still around, but whatever. I just like to look at it, so. But it works very well. It scrapes really well. As you can see, I mean, it's nice and clean. There's no, of course, it'll make a lie out of me when I say there's no torn grain, no nothing. I mean, we all grew up with the thing of, you don't use scrapers, you don't use scrapers. And you start watching some of these people use them, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, maybe you should try that. Nice and clean, nice colors. You just got to make sure that you stay with that negative angle down. That's all there is to them. It's pretty ugly when you don't. And yes, I know that from experience. It's also given me the way of literally almost finishing this. Go in there just a little bit on my tendon. Nice crisp corner in there. What to grab onto. Yeah, by all rights. I probably should check that. I'm pretty sure I had that set right. Otherwise, we're going to sand it. Probably sand it and maybe just sand it. It could have been, still have about 1/8 of an inch gap, so it's probably, give it a tight one. It's tight. Beech, I was kind of surprised. I thought beech would have been a little bit soft. Nope, it's good to go. Left no marks. So we can sand this, sand everything in here. Basically, then the back is finished. Could be a little lower in the middle. Yep. Have a good night. Just use the point of the skew to go in there. Just to give it a little extra shadow line. That's really all it is. And then we can sand and finish the outside. And I think we need new sandpaper all the way around. I pretty much power sand wherever I can. Just a little easier, faster. Lower speed down. I will spin it in reverse. For me, it does a better job for the dust collection, as you will see. If it will, I might have to change this pad. Get rid of my razor blade before I touch it. I think I gotta change. This is not really the right mandrel for that setup. This is the one I have on when I take this along for my classes. This is a much cheaper mandrel in a way. It's good enough. I mean, it is actually a pretty good mandrel, but when you're handing it to somebody that knows literally nothing, they have a tendency to push pretty hard on things. They seem to think the harder they push, the better things work, which is not the case. We need to get in here. So I started with 150. And now we should be able to just breeze through the rest of the grits. There's our paintbrush. I'm a big fan of wiping off the dirt. More importantly, wiping off any excess grit that's left behind. Probably, probably should finish back and forward and go in here and get this little bit in here totally sanded. This all gets sanded by hand. Before we move on and finish power sanding. Because the discs do not get the whole way in there to the corner. Okay. Got a little bit of a cold or something. That's the bottom ready for finish. Could probably put the finish on, but I normally don't do it that way. So we go inward. We'll finish the outs and the inside, and then we'll finish the whole thing at one time. I should go down to about less than an eighth of an inch in between the jaws. Gives me pretty much as close to a perfect circle as what I can get. I'm going to leave the dust collector running for a moment. The hose is not too bad. Would help better going forward though. A little hard to turn that way. This rim should already be clean, trued up, so, but we'll give it one last little shot. A little harmonics out of it. Never a good sign. Means we're pushing a little bit too hard on it. There's also not much material left down here. It's kind of the interesting part when you're doing this twice turning thing. Ideally would be maybe even to leave them a little bit thicker than what I did. I think we're going to leave a fairly good sized rim on this one. We'll sort of undercut it a little bit. And that broke through our tenon. So we're, I don't know, that might be a little too wide. And I'll take it a little bit further down than that. I'm going to get my small bowl gouge or do something different to undercut the rim. It's too much bevel behind that. You see the lines coming in there? That's the bevel rubbing against the wood. It's also starting to get thin out here, down to about 3/8 of an inch, which is not helping it. Which will just cause me a lot more sanding out here. Yeah, it's too big of a radius. Just leaving the ripple lines that I don't want. Because it's getting too thin. So we'll see if we can get rid of. I did make a teeny tiny little excuse me scraper. Man. Once again, we got to be above center, so we're pitched downward. That should work, hopefully. Very, very gentle touch. Just save probably 10 minutes worth of sanding to try and get those ripples out. And then we can finish out the bottom. And then left a beautiful big ridge, but that'll work. Just kind of another tool in the arsenal to make life a little easier. It's also a tool that I take along to when I teach classes, but I have yet to let anybody put that in their hand because they don't grasp the concept that it has to be downhill a little bit. And when a traditional scraper grabs, it grabs seriously hard. So now we can go back and sand the inside.
time we'll switch pads over to the soft pad on the inside. It'll make the contour better. Slow our speed down. We generally run about 600 or 700 RPMs to power sand. Start out here on the rim. A little bit out here yet. That's kind of the downfall in some ways of doing the undercut rim. It makes it a lot more difficult to get standing up underneath that rim. And if there's going to be any place that there's going to be a little bit of picked up grain or even torn grain, that's generally where it's going to be. Make matters worse. Still a tiny little bit there. The rest of that should come out as we go. Once again, our edges become very, very sharp. Just with that little bit of sanding. Just give it a little bit of a round.
tiny bit of a little bit of picked up range. Uh, Might have to go back and sand that rim with sheet sandpaper. Not getting rid of the little bit that I wanted to get rid of. And I go the whole way to 800. A lot of ways you wouldn't have to, but you start out with a super smooth surface. It's a whole lot easier to end up with a nice, smooth, finished surface. At least that's kind of my philosophy. Probably could. I was to power sand this rim with a solid pad rather than with my this backup pad. Has seen its better days. Take them on and off all the time. Has a tendency to wear them out quicker. Where's the Velcro? Let's see if we got rid of that. I took care of that. So we'll skip 180. The 400 is where I round those edges over. They start to. I don't want it to be sharp, but I want it sort of to be crisp and clean.
That's pretty much a bowl ready to put some finish on, so that's our next step. Put a couple things away. No longer need to just collection. One of these days I gotta throw this truck apart. It's one I bought used and sure there's some finish or something down in there. Got some little stiff spots. Basically go back to the where we were just at. And we'll actually sort of put it back between centers. Gotta get my little protector for the drive or the live center. Need to get a little piece of wax paper. Go there. Need a little bit of a barrier. Not worried whether I have it truly centered or not, because it really doesn't matter. We're not going to spin anything. I'm going to use my finish of choice, which is a slow setting CA glue. Oh, there he has nothing there. This is what I use. It's Parfix 3408. As you'll see, it's very simple to use. It gives me good results. And it's quick and easy. I put a piece of polyester felt in there, creates a little pad. Actually, we could go to 3, strictly to there. Yeah, that would look better. Move that over a little bit. Get lots on our pad. And we just wipe it on. Liberal coat. This has a 40-second time delay. Which is what allows you to use this as a finish versus most normal CA glues that would dry instantly. This is going to soak into the wood, soak into the pores of the wood, fill the pores up. And the last step of the process will be to buff it. So I will not do that tonight. We'll do that probably in 2 weeks from now when I come do another live stream. Ideally, it would be 24 hours later. It has a 24-hour cure time, which means it'll be totally cured as hard as it's going to get. I'm not worried about this bottom part yet because I didn't sign it down there, so I need to do that before I finish that last little bit down there, which is no big deal. I'm rubbing it in good. You can see I'm not no giant size hurry. Just make sure we get everything covered good, saturated, because there'll be places that wants to soak in more than others. Clean the bottle off. Put our cap back on, and then we're going to wipe off the excess. We don't want any of it sitting on the surface, even though that doesn't necessarily make sense. You'll pull some back off. basically want this surface to be dry. Because what we're after is what went down into the pores of the wood. It will set up and cure, and then when we buff it, it'll buff it back to the shine that it looks like right now as it being wet. Sort of a high satin shine, semi-gloss shine. It's not a high gloss shine unless you put a whole bunch of coats of carnauba wax or something on it. So just keep spinning around, making sure that I got it all. It's not the end of the world if I didn't. A little bit of 800 grit sandpaper to sand off any little bumps or something like that that might be left behind, because that's what it'll do. When it can't soak in, it sits on the surface and cures. And since we want to do the inside, we are going to hit it with a little activator about 12 to 18 inches away, and I spray above it. As you can see, the mist comes down, lands on top of it. That's all we need to do. We don't need to. You see so many people with activator up here and spraying and spraying and spraying. It's like you're just wasting the activator. I really should have a glove on my left. I'll do it this way. If I was to touch that right now with my ungloved hand, I could possibly stick to it. Not very likely, but super glue dries in the presence of moisture. So if there's moisture on my hand when I would touch something like that that's still wet, then it could possibly have a tendency to try and stick to it. It only takes a couple minutes for it to start the polymerization process. So within 5 or 10 minutes, you can pick it up and handle it all you want. Bare hands won't do anything. The other kind of cure-all kind of a thing. Super glue and wax are not friends. So if I take a little bit of this microcrystalline wax, a little bit on my finger, and I'm going to coat the jaws on the inside as well as the outside. Just a little light coat, because I'm going to grab a hold of that. So we don't want the jaws to leave any kind of marks behind. So since our tenon is properly sized, we can go right back into our chuck without any fear of leaving marks, because we didn't leave any to start with. And now we can finish the inside of the bowl. Same process on the inside as well as the outside. A little piece of polyester felt. No need for wax paper. I just roll it up inside the paper towels. Fold it over. And now we have a little reservoir. It works very simple. Part I like, it's very quick, very easy to do, versus some sort of a film finish on something like this. You're looking at 3 or 4 coats, maybe sand in between coats and the whole 9 yards, and pretty much a day's worth of messing about where this is getting done, and will be, in all practical purposes, done in the next couple minutes. The reason I let them go over for the 24-hour period, if I was to start and buff this like in the next 10 or 15 minutes, your buffing wheel sort of creates a little bit of a vacuum when it's up against that surface. So it can pull some of the uncured glue back out of the pores of the wood. And then of course when it does that, then it will instantly cure on the surface and leave you little bumps behind. So it's just, you got all this, you got it this far, Why be in a rush? Same as the outside. Nice liberal coat. Inside, whichever side you do second takes less material because the other side is now sealed. So the capillary action of the wood is no longer available to it. So it can't soak it through like it would, or try to soak it through like it would on the opposite side, if that makes sense. And that's it. Same deal, I will activate that. Two little swipes across and we're done. Set it off to the side and let it cure overnight. Give it a buff another day. And we can go back to overhead and it'll make more sense. You'll be able to see it better. So that's what we look like finished up. Piece of spalted beech. Like I say, I still have to sign on the bottom. Yeah. That very little time, very little effort as far as I'm concerned. That's why I like to use it. I am also a distributor of it, but that's not the reason that I use it. I became a distributor of it because of the fact that I was having trouble getting it easily otherwise. And that puts us to about 10 minutes of 8, so I think we're just going to call it a night. I don't know that I'm going to mess with the epoxy tonight because I don't. Generally, when I do the epoxy, I want plenty of time because this is the kind of the big sister one to it. That I think I'm going to fill this void with epoxy. Might have to take it upstairs and see what my critic says upstairs, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to fill it with something. I'm not a fan of the big voids and things like that. So we'll have to grind out a little material in there, put some tape across one side and fill it up with epoxy. Hopefully not make too big of a mess. But other than that, that's going to be it. Anybody have any questions, comments? Otherwise, we're here generally Saturday evenings around 6 o'clock. This is being broadcast on YouTube and Twitch, so you can go back and look at it. Otherwise, I will not be here next week because next week is a week that I will be teaching class. So I should be back in 2 weeks. Oh, you're quite welcome. So until then, y'all have a good 2 weeks. Let's stop back again.